Hey guys, welcome back to currently मैं हूँ इंडिया ब्लॉकचेन वीक के अंदर, जहाँ पर मेरे साथ है बिटको के सीईओ चैन फैंग। एंड यहाँ पर बिटको जो है काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है जब एक्सचेंजेस के ऊपर यूजर फंड्स की कस्टडी और सेफ्टी की यहाँ पर बात आती है, तो उनसे भी पर्सपेक्टिव लेंगे ओवरऑल बिटको करता क्या है। साथ में जब एक्सचेंजेस की बात आती है, जैसे वजीरेक्स वाला केस हुआ है, तो वहाँ पर बिटको जैसे जो सोल्यूशंस है वो कैसे इंडियन एक्सचेंजेस को हेल्प कर सकते हैं। So first of all, thank you so much for joining us. So is this your first time in India?
This is actually my second time in India.
Second time.
My second time.
Okay.
The first time was in April. We actually have a pretty big office here in Bangalore. Very proud of the team and what they've built over the last 3 years. Started out with only a couple of guys. One OG engineer at Bitgo who's been with the company for close 10 years at this point.
Wow.
He moved back home to India, to Bangalore, and he helped starting to recruit a couple of engineers, and that snowballed into what is truly an amazing office. Over 150 folks here in India. That number will continue to grow over the next couple of years. We recently signed a lease for a brand new building, multiple floors, beautiful facade. And hopefully we'll move into that office next April. So I was here for some office visits in April, and I'm here now in December for India Blockchain Week.
Oh, nice. How has been your experience in India so far? What's your first expression or your second expression? Impression, sorry, not expression.
Of India or of
India.
Of India.
Yeah.
Look,
What do you think?
if you ask the guys at Bitgo, right?
Yeah.
I've always been a huge proponent of India.
Okay.
Huge proponent. I spent close to 8.5-9 years in Silicon Valley, and before I was in Seattle. Obviously, these are the major tech hubs over in the United States. Huge Amazon, Microsoft presence over in Seattle. The heart of Silicon Valley, obviously, is in San Francisco and the Bay Area. Given how things have shaken out over the last couple of years, right? The newer generations of Google employees and Apple employees and Facebook employees, frankly, they're all very, very spoiled. If you think about office culture over there, you show up for work at like 9, 10 a.m., you leave at 4. Like, you don't really want that type of people working in a hardcore software development startup environment, right? This is why we look overseas. There's a lot of interest in Toronto. We do a lot of hiring out of the University of Waterloo. That's one location that we have overseas for engineering hub. And of course, you have Bangalore. You have India. I have a couple of other co-founders of mine that basically started their startup with the engineering hub in India from day one. These are Silicon Valley-backed companies, Silicon Valley VC-backed companies that started in India. And if you just look at the ROI, the throughput, the talent, it's unprecedented. Huge fan.
Amazing. So there are a lot of people who are joining crypto, and for them, they might not be aware about Bitgo. So can you give us a brief introduction about like what is Bitgo and what do you guys do?
Sounds good. Look, we are one of the blue chip companies left in crypto. If you think about how many crypto companies, how many crypto brands that has been around for over 10 years, there aren't that
The OGs.
There aren't that many left. We're in the same camp as Coinbase, right? It was that era of crypto companies that started in the United States. That's when Bitgo started. Bitgo started as a security company. So initially, it was focused mainly around wallets, the wallet life cycle. How do you produce a set of programmatic wallets that engineers can use to very easily get into initially just Bitcoin, but with the proliferation of all these other blockchains into Ethereum and all the other blockchains that have arrived in the scene since. You can view us as like the Twilio for digital assets, right? Like Twilio, they basically sit on top of all the telecommunication providers. If you want to send an SMS, you don't have to integrate with AT&T or Verizon or SK Telecom. You can integrate with Twilio and boom, it works across the world. Nobody wants to hire 40, 50, 60 blockchain engineers to interface with all these blockchains. They just come to Bitgo, tap our APIs, and boom, you have wallets at a click of a button. So that's how Bitgo started. And then it worked well for companies with engineers. In the 2016-17 era, that's when the big banks and the institutions started poking around, right? These traditional finance guys really wanted to get into the space, but they don't have engineers. They want basically a simple TradFi service, a custodial service, a trade execution service that they can trust and tap into. And this is when we started the collection of Bitgo trust companies around the world. So this is qualified custody, like real custody that's regulated, that's insured by now 7 various jurisdictions around the world, right? So we have our flagship trust company in South Dakota. We're also registered in New York. We have a trust company in New York State, regulated by New York Department of Financial Services. Over in Europe, we have our entity in Germany, regulated by BaFin, which is MiCA ready. If you prefer Switzerland for whatever reason, there's a Swiss entity for you to pick from. We have a presence in Dubai. This is regulated from VARA, UAE. There is a Singapore entity that's regulated by MAS. All the acronyms. And then finally, there was a recent JV that we launched with Hana Bank and SK, right? One of the largest telecommunications providers in South Korea and one of the largest banks in South Korea. So the 3 parties, Bitgo, SK, and Hana, we created this company called Bitgo Korea, which is the 7th trust company that we have. So there's a collection of these qualified custodians around the world that holds your assets very, very safely in this construct of qualified custody. And then more recently, in the 2020 era, this is when we started doing prime. This is trading, this is borrow lend, this is margin, right? People want to do stuff with their digital assets, right? We layer the prime services on top of the custody services. So if you zoom all the way out, you can view Bitgo in this layer cake fashion. At its core, at the very bottom, it's all about wallets, it's all about security. You have qualified custody solutions in the middle, and on top, you can do a bunch of fancy things on the trading, borrow, lend, margin perspective.
With Bitgo, I think I need to, a lot of my viewers, they would want to hear from you, and this is regarding the Wazir X. You might be aware of what happened, right? So I have to ask you this.
Sure.
So you provide custody services to a lot of exchanges, right? So my first question is like, how many exchanges in India use your services right now?
There's a few that use it. There's over 100 exchanges worldwide that use different elements of Bitgo. Some exchanges obviously use this way more aggressively as like the backbone of their system, such as Bitstamp around the world and Bullish. These are just 2 examples. And others, I believe Coin DCX use like parts of the software components only. I believe that's the case. And the reason why exchanges like want to use our platform is very simple. Fundamentally, these exchanges believe in the separation between exchange and custodian, which is super important. Which is super important. This is a fundamental philosophy that we believe, right? If you keep literally everything under the same entity, and if you don't do a good job from an OPSEC perspective, from a security perspective, you get yourself into these sticky situations whereby in a would-be bankruptcy, guess what? Your funds are not bankruptcy remote. Your funds are technically stuck at the exchange in the event that something really, really bad happens. Versus if you actually enlist the help from a qualified custodian, such as Bitgo, there's some other ones out there as well, your customer funds are kept in cold storage at the custodian. Sure, there's a sliver of it that may be in hot wallets that you use for daily withdrawals, deposits, etc. But the bulk of it is with a qualified custodian. If the core company, the core exchange will falter, at the very least, your client funds are protected separately at the custodian. So that model, that construct, I think is very important to get right.
And if exchanges keep their cold storage funds, users' cold storage funds with Bitgo, so is it like 100% secure?
Yeah, so that is a question around like how, I guess, Bitgo custody works, right?
Yeah.
Look, how we are different compared to other custodians out there, my definition of real custody versus fake custody is the following. There's 2 major differences. The first thing is our use of multi-signature technology, right? Everything that we do at Bitgo is multi-sig. What does that mean? That means the ultimate private keys that govern the wallets held at Bitgo, there's not a single private key, right? There's actually 3 of them. And you need 2 of the 3 keys at any given point in time to actually move funds, right? So that's super, super critical. Some of the other, again, custodians out there, they use a 2 of 2 or 3 of 3 model. It's not multi-sig, it's rather like MPC technology. You lose any of those shares, it's called shares in the MPC world, you lose any of those shares, you're done. You're done.
So who has the
Great question. And I'll get there. So these three keys, actual keys that we have here at Bitgo, how it typically works is the custodian, the registered licensed custodian that you're working with, such as the South Dakota Trust Co., the New York Trust Co., the Europe, Germany Trust Co., they will basically have the majority of the keys. The primary key that they hold on to, ironically, is held in a physical vault. And you might be like, wait a second, aren't we dealing with digital assets? Right? Like, this is digital assets. Why are there physical, like, I'm talking about like real bank vaults, right. Like class 3 bank vaults.
You have something.
A building. Yes, we have multiple vaults.
Like futuristic.
Well, more like old school. It's like, yeah, it's a little cypherpunk. But literally, there are vaults that exist around the world.
Yeah.
And because the United States, we love guns, right? We love guns so much. The vaults in the United States have guys with guns, rifles, standing in front of those vaults, guarding the physical vaults.
Yeah.
And the underlying philosophy is to keep things truly secure. It has to be truly offline. And my definition of offline is if the laptop or the device that you're using to generate the keys has ever seen the light of day, meaning it has ever touched the internet, whether it's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, it potentially could be hacked. Period. That's our philosophy. If it has ever touched the internet, there is a potential to be hacked. I don't care what security policies you have. I don't care what OPSEC craziness you have, except whether you're using Amazon, electronic HSMs. It can be compromised. It actually can be compromised if a hacker gets into your AWS console and starts mucking around with your settings. Our setup is very simple. It's offline, completely offline. And then the key that's created is then sharded a number of times. So even if you get a single shard of that one key, you can't get that key. You need to get a bunch of people together to reconstitute that single key. All these shards, all these keys are then kept in these physical vaults. And what does that actually mean? It means that when you do a withdrawal at Bitgo, after we verify your identity, after we do a bunch of verifications, you are literally causing people to get up from their desks
and go there,
literally open a vault to move funds. Yes.
Okay. So if there's an exchange,
yes,
keeping a lot of funds with you.
Yes.
First of all, my question is that can you show how much funds are as a proof of reserve for an exchange with you, and how often do they transact? Because if every time you need to go for the physical key, it might be a time-consuming thing. So yeah.
So couple of things. One, some of these exchanges have proof of reserve modules that they built. Fundamentally, everything underneath are segregated wallets, cold storage wallets, which means if you have the addresses to these wallets, you can very easily prove that they exist and they're held here at Bitgo. In fact, if you look very carefully, like at Bitcoin wallet specifically, you can tell that this is a Bitgo multi-sig wallet. And guess what? These exchanges, a lot of them have auditors. And typically January through April is audit season. So these auditors are working with these exchanges and working with us, asking for proof that all your backing assets indeed are there and they exist, right? So fundamentally, because of this setup, right, exchanges feel comfortable keeping everything with us. Now, from a withdrawal perspective, it's a great question. We have over 460, 470 full-time employees around the world. There's multiple vault locations around the world. At these multiple vault locations, there are multiple shifts. Day shift, afternoon shift, night shift. And again, doesn't matter when you want to do withdrawal. There's somebody, a collection of people awake at Bitgo to help you do the withdrawal correctly. And going back to how exchanges use us specifically, there's typically a balance between like cold wallets, which is the vast majority of assets, and hot wallets. So depending on their daily withdrawal rates, they typically keep enough in hot. And then like they do a withdrawal every couple hours or every couple, even of days sometimes, to rebalance between cold and hot.
I think one of the biggest lesson here is because in case of WazirX, they were using a custody service provider out of India, Nominal, right? And with them, even they were like, they issued multiple, they were using multi-sig, right? They had like 6 keys, 5 with WazirX, 1 with Nominal, where they used to. But it was like, what you mentioned, it's connected to the internet. So they have a dashboard, they have to, every time they have to make a transaction, they just click it, and yeah. So I think that was the big thing. So what's your message to, there are a lot of Indian exchanges and it's like a big issue, like what sort of custody Indian exchanges are using, whether it's going to be safe or not, because WazirX was one of the biggest exchange and this sort of hack happened with them. So any feedback you have for exchanges, any advices you have? And for the users, what do you see? What should they look at when they trade on an exchange? Like what sort of security they should look at?
I'll start with the users first. Again, like going back to that philosophy of the separation of powers between an exchange and a custodian. The exchange that you use ultimately should have one or ideally multiple custodial partners underneath. These are separate entities that offer actual qualified custodial services to the exchange. And the assets held at these custodians, they should be bankruptcy remote. What does that mean? That means that, again, the assets are held within these specialized companies. And guess what? God forbid, if Bitgo Inc. were to go away, these specialized trust companies that we have around the world, life will go on, right? They're heavily regulated by these various regulators around the world, to the point whereby the assets held at these exchanges are never commingled with our corporate funds, right? So if our corporate funds aren't being commingled with our customer funds, guess what? That same philosophy should apply to the exchange. The exchange's corporate funds should never be commingled with your money, with customer money. With respect to WazirX and Liminal, it's an unfortunate situation. Like, there's been so many of these things that happened in the past. We're kind of known as the janitors in this space. Every time something bad happens, fun fact, we're working very closely with the new FTX guys, the guys that took over, John, and we're helping them through that entire process, right? After Sam passed the baton over to John, I'm not sure if it's widely known, but Bitgo was selected as the sole custodian behind FTX. So all of the FTX assets were custody at Bitgo for the last 2 years.
The last 2 years.
Last 2 years. And we were also selected to do the distributions as well. So all of you.
Is it going to be same for WazirX? Are you guys going to manage?
Look, we are in talks. For the record, we have a company here in India. The company, it was registered mainly for talent purposes. Like, we have hired a bunch of amazing engineers and other folks in other disciplines here in India, but it was never meant to go in from a commercial perspective. There are active discussions. We love India. We love this space. We're here to help. And depending on what happens with the FIU, yeah, we might do something.
Awesome. So now, Chen, I have few fun questions. So, as you know, we are in the bull run. So what's your prediction for Bitcoin?
That's
a normal question.
That's a normal question.
That's a very normal question.
Yeah, and you have to answer.
Look, I hope it's not over yet, right? This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Like what I said on stage a couple hours ago, I think there were two major factors leading up into this bull run. The first is, if you look at what happened with the ETFs in the United States, truly incredible, right? That has made the acquisition of Bitcoin extremely easy for the real powerhouses in traditional finance. Literally, the tickers exist. Yeah. You call your broker at Morgan Stanley, you can buy it, literally right now. And if you look at the inflows of BTC on a daily basis over the last couple of weeks, truly incredible. The second thing is, of course, our 47th president of the United States. God bless Donald Trump. We're back. He's back. Yeah. And just look from election day onwards, what has happened. Yeah. Holy cow. I think the best times are ahead. Hopefully we continue to go up from here.
But you still didn't give a number. You have to give a number.
Do I have to give a number?
You cannot dodge it.
No. Look, we're gonna go into the 6 digits.
6 digits?
6 digits.
Okay.
6 digits. Yeah.
Okay. And do you like actively invest in other crypto coins, altcoins, meme coins, NFTs?
What you like to buy?
Yeah. What do you buy? What are you buying?
These are very personal questions.
Investment advice.
This is not investment advice, for the record. I personally do a lot of research in this space. Like, for us to keep up with everything that's going on, to be at the cutting edge. People like myself, other leaders at Bitgo, we're in there. We're on Phantom, we're on MetaMask, we're poking around, we're looking at the latest technologies and the creations that exist. For me personally, look, I would say 99% of my assets, my personal assets, are tied with digital assets in one way, shape, or form. 99%. 99%.
Live on crypto.
I am all in on crypto.
All in, yeah.
I am all in. Yeah.
Awesome. It was a pleasure to have you here, Chen, and I hope you enjoy your time here in India. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.